Hey guys, here's a cool project. It's a wooden chain. All it involves is just making a couple of really simple jigs. And once you have those made, you can make this as long as you want. I don't normally make projects based on plans that I find in a book, but I want to give credit where credit is due, because in this project, I actually got out of this book. It's called The Router Handbook by Patrick Spielman. This is a 1983 version, but the book is still available on Amazon.com in an updated version. You guys might remember a few months ago I was having some trouble with my router and it was pretty much dying. I needed to get a new router. Well, you want to hear something cool? Porter Cable. They sent me a brand new router. So I really want to repay the favor to Porter Cable, but I don't want to just do a product review because that's really kind of boring, and I don't want to really do a commercial for them because, well, nobody really wants to sit through a commercial. And besides, commercials are just so old school now. The key now is product placement. So, you know, you might see a little product placement in this video, but I assure you it'll be really unobtrusive. I'm going to start with this base piece, which is 1/4 inch MDF, and I've installed a 3/4 inch straight bit into my router table, stop block on the right side, and I've set up a stop block 1 inch from the end on this side. Now I've got a piece of 1/2 inch MDF, and I'm just going to trace out this oval. Perfect. So there, I've cut this out just outside of the line so that I can clean it up on my sander. The main important part here is to make sure that this piece fits pretty snugly into that hole. This is a 1/4 inch scrap of MDF, and I've drawn a straight line and I've put 2 marks here 1 inch apart from each other. And I'm using a 1 3/4 inch Forstner bit in my drill press to bore out 2 holes. So that just gives me this quick little template that I can use to cut out this 1/2 inch MDF. I'm just going to draw the shape right on it. And I'm using a really light touch on that sander just to get it down exactly to that curve. Now I can glue together this assembly, and you know, I'm sure there's I'm sure there's some good way of getting this exactly centered, but I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to make this little box, and to do that I'm going to take this assembly and I'm just going to stick it into that slot. I actually cut 2 because that kind of screwed that one up. But anyways, so I'm just going to flip it over like this. Now I've cut some 3/4 inch pieces of plywood, butt everything up against that centerpiece. Alright, before that glue sets, I want to pop this out of there. Now I'm going to take this assembly here and I'm going to glue it onto this board that I just kind of roughly cut a couple of holes in there, just so that the sawdust can go out through there, and it'll also give extra room for my flush trim bit to fit in. I've taken a 3/4 inch scrap of lumber and I've glued this, this double oval piece to it. I'm gluing down some just 1/2 inch strips of the MDF, and they don't really need to be square or anything. All these need, I just want to have enough space in between them that I can run a router bit, and they're just going to provide support for the base of my router. Well, now comes the fun part. I've clamped down both of these jigs to my workbench right next to each other so that I can route out the chains. Another thing you might have noticed is that I cut these all down nice and square to, well, to make them look pretty, because, well, really, I think all jigs kind of need to look pretty, don't they? First, I'm going to install this 3/8 inch flush trim bit, and it's got a bearing on here that will run along the inside of the templates that I made. So I'm going to use this little box template first, and I've set my router bits where that bearing rides along the inside of that template. I've cut a bunch of blocks of wood. These are all 5/8 of an inch thick, and they will drop into the box like so. But before dropping them in, I've bored out a 1/2 inch hole so that I have, you know, an area for the flush trim bit to drop into. Alright, so there is my cutout piece. So now I can remove it from this jig and bring it over to this jig, and it'll fit right over top of that little piece just fine. Now, do you see my error here? Keep looking. Okay, I'm going to show it to you again. Okay, where did I screw up on this? Yeah, it's right here. This isn't high enough. This needs to be up like this high so my router base can run along there. So what I'm going to do is use 3/4 inch plywood and kind of build this box up a little bit higher. And now it's not going to look as pretty. And just like that, now I've got it built up a little bit higher so I can put this block right down on there. And yeah, it's not pretty any longer. Yeah, I can just take that off of there, and there's my first link. Now I've switched out that straight bit for this 1/4 inch roundover bit with a bearing. And I'll drop that link back into that first jig. So that rounds over the inside of one side, so now I just flip it over and do the other side. Now I'll take it out of this jig and put it back into this jig and round over the outside edges. And there's the completed link. Every other one you need to split apart. And I'm just using a pocket knife with a real thin blade on it, and I'm just going to put it on one side here and tap it. Just pull it apart and let it break wherever it's going to break. Well, there's my completed chain. I've only made 5 links on this so far, but it actually, once I got the hang of it, it went pretty easily and it went pretty quickly. I made these 5 links in about 20 minutes, just kind of setting up an assembly line and doing each step on each piece and then moving on to the next step. I'm not sure exactly what you would do with this, but I don't know. I could, lock up my Porter cable router with it. So thanks for watching, guys, and a special thanks to that tool company that sent me the new router. And well, I hope the product placement, wasn't too obvious. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later.